Hey, and welcome, Miss Kira Speaks. Before we get started, I ask that you watch the videos till the end, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. We're back again for another episode of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, Episode 5, She by Herself. Now, first off, bravo, y'all are dead wrong for that title. So the episode picks up right where we left off. We're in New York, we're at the dinner table, and Sheree, she's got her receipts, honey, okay? Ralph, he's confused. Drew, she's calling Sheree messy. And Sonia lets Drew know that her anger is misdirected and she should be addressing Anthony. Even if it wasn't true, you know he's messy, Sonia tells her. And Drew, she agrees. But Drew, she know that man is messy, and that's exactly why she got him there, to find out the gossip and to provide her with a storyline. In her confessional, Sonia says she doesn't mind holding her friends down, but she's side-eyeing Drew because she's doing some things that she just doesn't rock with. So she tells Drew, you need to get rid of toxic people right away. Marlo's like, so were you wrong? She's asking Drew, and then Drew gives a if-then apology. And I can't stand to, well, if you felt, then it's not an apology. It's not. You apologize for putting your hands in my face? Sheree asked her, and Drew's like, I'll apologize now if I put my hands in your face. She says she talks with her hands and she'll work on it. Okay, Drew. Ralph wants to know how he got involved in the whole thing. And Sheree's like, oh, Anthony was talking about a bunch of people. And Kenya's like, Sheree didn't bring me the information about you and the guy, she's telling Drew. Then Sheree says to Drew, no, I didn't do what you did to me. Ciao. Then Sheree turns around and she feels like Kandi should have come to her directly. Kandi, she admits to what she did. She says she was wrong and she apologizes. And the group's like, see, that's how it looks. See, Drew, that's how it looks. So Kenya's phone starts to going off and she excuses herself. And Marlo, she's right behind her. And Marlo goes outside to talk to her. And of course, it's Mark with the BS. They had made arrangements for Brooklyn and now he wants her to drop everything and come pick her back up. So Kandi, she comes out to see what happens and, she explains and Candy's like, at some point you're going to have to start pulling back a little and let him come to you and make arrangements. And Kenya's like, I can't do that. In her confessional, Kenya talks about the importance of father-daughter relationships. And she's right. And I get it. But child, co-parenting, hot mess. And they can and will turn ish around on you. Trust me. So Marlo tells her, listen, don't let him spoil your night, and they return to the table. So Kenya asks Sheree what's up with Tyrone, and she says he put in the paperwork, and then we got to go through this whole house arrest thing all over again. And then she says, but he won't be able to make it to the play, which I said last time, because I'm like, how he gonna make it to a play when he got a 9 o'clock curfew? Candy's like, that's okay, we could meet up for lunch or something, and as long as he gets to spend time with you, that's all that matters. So Marlo's like, listen, I didn't listen to y'all all talk and y'all need to focus on each other and y'all need to listen to each other. And Kandi, the sex stuff is getting out of hand because Miss Marlo doesn't want to walk those New York streets with no vibrating panties on. She talks about Todd wanting more sex and Candy's like, why don't you go ahead and get some instead of worrying about what I got going on? And Marlo's like, you may be right, but I'm going to tell you this. It's one thing you don't play with is your jobs. And you have to treat this just like a job. And I mean, she wasn't wrong. Marlo said she gonna cash app the people for her therapist payment. Marlo's silly, y'all. It's day 2 of the New York trip and we're checking in on everybody. And then Kandi, she's got to meet with her people about the play and talk business. Things are going well and Atlanta and Texas are the 2 number 1 buying places. So the guy says New York doesn't come back until plays come back, until Broadway comes back. And this play is helping to bring New York back. And Kandi, she's excited, as she should be. So Sonia and Kenya, they get together and they're going on a little outing. And Sonia talks about living in New York for some time. And I didn't realize that Ross played for the Giants. New Yorkers, don't beat me up. I don't watch football. But anywho, Kenya's like, oh, okay, I didn't know what he did. And Sonya had to let her know he is a 2-time Super Bowl champ. Kenya's like, oh, so y'all like a real sports power couple. And indeed, they are. So Sonya's like, what happened last night with Mark? And so Kenya fills her in on Mark and his narcissism. And she's like, it's real simple. When do you want to see her? And when is she coming back? That's all. And then she says she feels bad for Drew and her situation. And she admits she might have gone in a little too hard on Ralph. I don't know about that. She says she was just trying to get him to understand. And then he said something to Drew that triggered her and she went off. So Sonya talks about Drew needing to take some accountability in the situation. And then they start talking about some things that Sonya's uncomfortable with and this doggone assistant. You know, because the assistant's messy. She don't understand why Drew's keeping him hanging on. And then they start to talk about drop it with Drew. And Kenya's like, but didn't she have surgery? How is she, qualified to give weight loss advice? Kenya, we don't know. We looking for the answers too. The ladies say between Drew and Ralph, they don't have any idea of how the program works. No one does. So Sheree checks in with Candy, and Candy's like, where's Tyrone? He's not going to be able to make it. So in her confessional, Sheree starts talking about the traveling radius, and Candy ain't buying it. And I ain't buying it either. And production, they pull up the mileage on the screen because they are on their job. Because Sheree was stuttering and stammering, so you knew something was up with the situation. So everyone goes out to get something to eat, and Candy can pick a place and put a menu together. So Marlo gets into a conversation about her styling, and we find out that she worked with Jazzy Faye and that they had a little something, but nothing too crazy because he had a girlfriend and she wasn't fixing to be no side chick. Or at least that's what Marlo said. So Kenya asked Candy, who's the most famous person that ever hit on you? Todd's like, listen, don't get somebody effed up around here. He's joking. And Kenya's like, Todd, we're just talking about hitting on Candy. Candy's like, well, everybody knows that I was in a full-blown relationship with Gerald Levert. Child, I didn't. And apparently, I'm the only one that didn't know. So Candy asks, Drew, what about you? Don't ask Drew nothing, Candy, because she about to start with the BS. She's like, I had a certain thing with the king of the NBA before he was married. She's like, we went on a few dates and I went to games. And he listened to my music. And, he listened to my music before the games. And that's how they was winning all those games. And Marlo was like, what music did you have, girl, bitch? A mess. So they bleep out the name. But in her confessional, Sonya calls BS because apparently whoever she was referring to has been with their wife since high school. So when did Drew have time to slide on in there? And then I was like, oh, did she mean LeBron? Because Kenya was like, no, She said Laquan. She meant Laquan. That's what she had said. Kenya funny, y'all. Drew is so full of it. And then Marlo's like, Gene Simmons. Todd's like, who's that? Todd, how you don't know who Gene Simmons is? And Kenya's like, yep, that tracks for Marlo. They had me laughing this episode, y'all. And Kenya says, Prince. Well, she didn't say Prince. She did her little... And we got the message. And it's quite possible because Miss Kenya was she bad now, but she was a bad one back in the day, okay? But Drew, she's calling BS. Drew, you got a whole lot of nerve. A whole lot. So Marlo wants to know, where is Tyrone? Oh, Tyrone's not going to make it this time. Child, I'm so tired of hearing about Tyrone, but this is a Tyrone episode, y'all, okay? So the ladies, they want to hear more, but they got to go get to this play, child. And Candy's like, be ready downstairs by 7 o'clock and put your vibrating panties on. So everyone is looking fine as they climb into that Sprinter. Candy, Sonya, and Drew, they got their vibrating panties on and they are ready to go. Sonya's panties are going crazy. And then in her confessional, Candy admits that the remote control can work on more than one pair of panties if it's in a close radius. Plot twist. So Kenya, she finally makes her way into the Sprinter, and she ain't got no doggone vibrating panties on. So they're on the way to the place. There's a traffic stop. The driver's like, y'all want to get out and walk the 7 minutes, or you want to try and make it? They're like, oh, they didn't want to risk it, so they get out and they walk them 7 minutes. But Marlo gets her on a little city bike and bikes her way there, and I ain't mad at her. So after the play, everyone's talking about how amazing it was and how wonderful it was. And it's good to hear some positive comments all around from this group. So Candy tells us, Thoughts of a Colored Man is about 7 different black men with 7 different emotions, so you can see black men from all different perspectives. So on the sprinter, the guys start talking about how they can relate and to what scene and a lot of the different characters. And then Marlo brings up a situation in the play that she thought was real about the guy taking care of his mom. And Kenya, in her confessional, she talks about the play and how proud she is of Candy. So that night they're having a pajama jam. So everybody gets ready. Kenya comes on down. Sheree comes on down and Marlo comes on down, and they're kind of eating and drinking and chatting. So they start talking about Ralph being from Jersey, him and Drew's messy relationship. And Marlo's like, I think Drew will be believing the BS that Ralph be telling her. She must. And then Kenya starts to talk about dropping with Drew. And Sheree's like, but didn't she have the surgeries? And now she's talking about working out. So then they go ahead and pull up the doggone website. So they click on the website. Okay, boom. Clink. The link don't work to join. And as a former QA person, that's a no-no. Your website has to be together. Those links got to be working. So they saying something about Marlo. Marlo's like, yeah, my website is working. Kenya's like, you can go to mine and get your Kenya Moore hair care. And then Sheree gonna start talking about some damn she by Sheree. When, Sheree? When? Boop. She said when it comes out. We not waiting no more. We're not. We're over it. We'll watch you wear the joggers, but we're not waiting for no joggers. So then Sonya and Ross come in, followed by Todd and Candy, followed by Drew and Ralph. Kenya, she apologizes to Ralph if she offended him. She said she was projecting, and that was mighty big of her. So he says he appreciates the apology. He started saying some other BS, and I just tuned him out because nobody cares, Ralph. Nobody cares. You're full of crap. So Todd's like, yeah, y'all want to talk? Can I take the fellas and we just dip and disappear? How about that? And they do just that. So Sonya says to Drew, listen, I didn't want to talk to you in front of everybody, but boom, here we are. So she starts kind of talking about the same conversation she was having with Kenya about her and this messy assistant. And basically she feels like Drew, we wanted to have her back. And everybody's a little confused because when did Drew say she needed her to have her back? But okay. So Drew seems confused. And Sonya's like I said, she don't rock with the BS, putting the hands in the face and all of that. And Drew's like, why don't we have this conversation in private? Sonya's like talking about how she had 11 people in the room doing the makeup. And Drew's like, but you had multiple occasions since then to have this conversation. Like, matter of fact, I picked you up from a car accident. So don't know what's going on. In her confessional, Candy's like, Sonya should have wrote it down, and she definitely shouldn't. She was a little like me, y'all. Her thoughts was all over the place. And something was like, it wasn't connecting, and everybody was looking confused. So then Marlo brings up to Drew about the website, and she brings Kenya into it, and Kenya's like, no, don't put me in that. Kenya, you was there. You might not have gone on, but you was there. And Drew, she's all excited, like, oh, you're all on my website? Oh, y'all about to join? And the ladies' faces were priceless. They're like, yeah, no, it didn't work, boo. Who said it didn't work? Drew. So then she starts going on about how the program works. They're like, no, boo, the website didn't work. We pressed the button, it didn't work. She was like, oh, the site must have crashed. Drew, keep a lie in her back pocket, y'all. She just throw you that lie real quick. So the ladies, they're having a kiki. Drew starts talking about her health and why she had to get surgery. So Marlo's like, oh, so dropping with Drew is to maintain the surgeries. Child, shade. Come on, Marlo. High five for that one, girl. Whoo, yes. So Candy, she's hiding her face, and Drew's like, no, it's to be in good health. And Sonya's like, but we still don't know what it is. So then Drew starts talking about meal plans and this and that, and production, like they're cutting it up and speeding up and slowing it down and all this BS. And the ladies are just looking at her like, and they're talking shit in their confessionals. And the whole scene was just funny because Drew, none the wiser. So I think it was Kenya's confessional that wrapped it up. That's like, it's giving me Ponzi scheme. Sheree's like, so if it worked for so many people, then why'd you get lipo? Good question. Drew's like, oh, I lost the weight and then I hurt a hernia, so my stomach was still protruding. And then I thought she was going to say endometriosis because that's what I thought she said before. Then she's like, adenomyosis. I don't know what the heck that is, but sorry to this woman. Candy's like, we're all just wondering if this is legit. Drew's like, yes, I've been doing this for a while. Do you want to see my how much money I'm making, my paycheck? Girl, no, we want to see results. What about your clients? What you mean your paycheck? Obviously you getting paid, but is it working? Is it a scheme that Todd has set up? So production in her confessional starts to call Drew out, and she doesn't have the answer, Sway. So she gets somebody on the phone like, wait, I got to keep her on the phone because they're asking me questions like, Drew don't know how much the meal plan costs. She don't know how much nothing costs. It's supposed to be your thing, and she doesn't know nothing about nothing. So then Sheree's like, this is my thing. I works out. This is homegrown, boom, boom. But Tyrone is calling me. So she goes over there. She starts talking to Tyrone. Kenya comes. She talking to Tyrone too. So Drew, she finally gets the information up on her phone because she was talking about an app at one point, child, just over my head. So she gets the stuff up and she's like, yeah, see right here, this is this and this is this much. Are you okay with me? She asked Sonya. Sonya's like, nah, I'm not okay. And then eventually everybody just kind of goes on over to Sheree and starts talking to Tyrone on the phone because ain't nobody give a quack diddle so what Miss Drew had going on. So the next morning, Sheree is supposed to meet Tyrone in Philly to eat before she catches her flight to Atlanta. So she's in the Sprinter or whatever she's in, making her way there. She tells us she hasn't seen him in a couple of weeks. And as she's like pulling up to the place, she starts to call him. Tyrone is not answering. So she arrives at the restaurant and she's calling and calling and calling. And she's sitting outside by herself. So then it seems like she's blocked. She's calling, he's not answering. So now she starts texting him. He's still not responding. So then it's like 25 minutes in at this point. I think she ordered an appetizer. Still no Tyrone. So then she calls her daughter Tiara and tells her how he's a no-show. And I mean, it's one thing to not answer your phone, but you could have told me before I got there. You could have texted me, but for you not to have any communication with me at all, that's a no-no. So then the daughter's like, I think he got you blocked, but I gotta run. So she gets off the phone with the daughter and Sheree's like, and I'm starting to think the worst. If the worst is he stood you up, then yes, girl, that's the worst. He definitely stood you up. So about an hour and 35 minutes later, the producers come out and it's like, he's not going to make it because it's a violation of his parole. And Sheree's like, what are you talking about? We go out to eat all the time. Child, my guess is Tyrone, I guess he could be filmed on FaceTime. But because they were trying to say, oh, he was approved for yesterday in New York, but not today. She's in Philly and she said they've gone out to eat. So like I said, my whole thing is I'm assuming that he couldn't be filmed, but why he couldn't have said that to her before she got there? Because baby is pissed and she got every right to be pissed. So annoyed, I think it was about 2 hours later, which I don't know why she was sitting there after production told her that, but she FaceTimes Kenya. She's all upset. Kenya's trying to get her to calm down. She's telling her she already got her flight booked because Kenya's like, well, what can I do for you, girl? Sister girl, what can I do for you? Sheree's trying not to cry. Kenya's telling her to trust her instincts. This is strike one. So Sheree says something about it being more than strike one. And Kenya's like, listen, you got to figure this whole thing out. And it's a good thing because one way or another, it needs to be addressed. And this doggone confessional look, I meant to say it before that Sheree has, I hated it. So this is when Kenya asked her if there was anything she can do for her. And Kenya's like, don't you call him again. Use a bad bitch. So you strut through that airport, you get on that plane and you bring your behind home. And that's kind of basically where we end. She gets off the phone with Kenya. She's sitting at the table. She's all upset and it's a wrap. And I was thinking, did Marlo scare the man away? Because she had said on the FaceTime, I think the night before, like, we going to get in Candy Sprinter and we all going to come to Philly and hang out with you and eat. Just kidding. We know it wasn't Marlo's fault. Tyrone was a jerk. That was a sucker move. How did you guys feel about the episode? Drop down in the comments and let me know. I think the season is moving along quite well. If you have made it this far, put that tragedy, comedy, emoji down in the comments for the play. I hope you'll come back and join me for episode 6. While you're here, check out some of my other content. Thank you. And before you go, like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate you. Peace.